Badlands National Park in southwestern South Dakota is often referred to as a monument to erosion, but as unappealing as that may sound, the park is worthy of visiting. In fact, in 2024, 1,094,245 people visited the park. This placed it as the 25th most visited national park ahead of other popular parks such as Crater Lake, Redwoods, and Mammoth Caves, to name a few. As mentioned, Badlands National Park is in the southwest corner of South Dakota and is one of 2 national parks in the state. The other national park is Wind Cave National Park, which receives about half the number of visitors. Specifically, the park lies roughly halfway between Spearfish to the west and the capital, Pierre, to the east. Approximately 125 miles, or about a 2-hour drive to either city. The park is 242,756 acres and is marked by tall spires, buttes, canyons, and prairie lands. In 1939, the land was designated a national monument and in 1978 was reclassified as Badlands National Park. There is a $30 entry fee per private vehicle, $25 for a motorcycle, and $15 for a person walking or biking into the park. The 27-mile Badlands Loop Road is the only road through the park. Before we get too far, you may be wondering, why is it called the Badlands? The name pays homage to the people who lived here for hundreds of years, the Lakota Sioux, who called the land Mako Sika, which translates to Badlands. Later, French fur traders called the area Badlands to travel across, but why would both the Lakota Sioux and French give it such an unappealing name? Several factors make this a bad land to travel across. When it rains, the clay turns slippery and sticky, the canyons and buttes are not easily traversed, there can be strong winds whipping across the prairie, and summer can see high temperatures. The highest recorded temperature in South Dakota was 120 degrees in 2006. Paleontologist Thaddeus Culbertson said of the land, "Fancy yourself on the hottest day in summer in the hottest spot of such a place, without water, without an animal and scarce an insect to stir, without a single flower to speak pleasant things to you, and you will have some idea of the utter loneliness of the Badlands." Interestingly, in 1922, when the land was first proposed as a national park, one suggested name was Wonderland National Park. We now know how the park got its name, but how did this landscape form? Simply put, deposition and erosion. The building up of the formations, known as deposition, began around 75 million years ago and are a result of shallow inland seas, wind, and rivers laying down rocks and sediment. The next step was erosion caused by rivers, mainly the Cheyenne and White Rivers, as well as rain, cutting channels and canyons through the land. The rocks are mostly soft sedimentary rocks such as sandstones, claystones, mudstones, with some limestone. Unlike the hard granite of the nearby Black Hills that erodes 1 inch every 10,000 years, the buttes and spires of the Badlands erode 1 inch every year. Badlands is also a geologic term and refers to terrain similar as the ones in this national park. Other Badlands found in the U.S. are in Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and Nebraska. Before we move on from the rocks, let's discuss the layered look. The oldest layers are at the bottom and move to the newer layers at the top. There are 5 layers, moving from oldest at the bottom to newest at the top: the Pierre Shale, Yellow Mounds, Chadron Formation, Brule Formation, and Sharps Formation. The Pierre Shale was laid 75 to 69 million years ago by the Western Inland Seaway, a large body of water that once covered what is now the Great Plains. This was a large body of water that once covered what is now the Great Plains and was believed to be around 2,500 feet deep. This is considered shallow compared to oceans or even the Mediterranean Sea, which has an average depth of 4,900 feet. Next is the Yellow Mounds, consisting of weathered shale and fossil soil made of bits of fossils. That was followed by the Chadron layer, consisting of claystone beds. This was laid when the land was hot and wet, similar to the Everglades in Florida. The fourth layer, the Brule Formation 34 to 30 million years ago. It was formed when the land looked more like a savanna, with occasional rivers crossing the land. Lastly, the Sharps Formation 30 to 28 million years ago when ash from volcanic eruptions in the Great Basin in Nevada covered the land. Over these millions of years and changing environments, many types of animals would have inhabited the land and water. Today, fossils from these creatures can still be found in the park. Signage along this boardwalk explains the types of animals that once swam and walked over the land. Mosasaurs were massive marine lizards growing up to 50 feet long and were the apex predator in the western interior seaways 75 to 69 million years ago. 38 to 34 million years ago, the Brontothera roamed the Badlands. These large mammals grew up to 8 feet tall, 16 feet long with horns up to 3 feet wide. They were similar in size to a large rhino today. One of the most common fossils is of the Oreodont, an even-toed, hoofed mammal. They are described as being a mix between a camel, sheep, and pig. They are most closely related to the modern camel but very distantly related. Lastly, fossils of the Nimravid are found in the park. Although they look like a saber-toothed cat, they aren't in the cat family. These creatures were carnivorous and could grow to the size of a modern-day cougar or jaguar. Animals found in the park today include pronghorn antelope, bighorn sheep, black-footed ferrets, prairie dogs, golden eagles, prairie rattlesnakes, and bison. Let's take a closer look at a few of these animals. We begin with the American bison. This massive creature is the largest land mammal in the Western Hemisphere. Adult males can weigh up to 2,000 pounds, stretch 12 feet long, and stand 6 feet tall. Today, there are an estimated 500,000 American bison in the United States, but at their peak, there was an estimated 30 to 60 million roaming America. Another animal found in the park is the pronghorn antelope. They are the fastest land mammal in the Western Hemisphere, reaching speeds up to 60 miles per hour. Adult males weigh 88 to 140 pounds and stand up to 3.5 feet at the shoulder. Although they are called antelope, they are not related to the antelope in Africa or Asia. They are actually the last surviving member of a group of animals that evolved in North America during the past 20 million years. Lastly, let's look at the prairie rattlesnake. This venomous snake has the largest range of any rattlesnake in the country, ranging from across the Great Plains from Canada to Mexico. They can reach lengths up to 5 feet long, though large, not as large as the eastern and western diamondback rattlesnakes that can reach over 8 feet in length, making them the largest venomous snake in North America. From animals to humans, the oldest archaeological site in the park is believed to be around 12,000 years old and represents a temporary camp for hunters. Over 300 other sites have been discovered, but there have yet to be any signs of a permanent settlement. It is believed the area was used as a seasonal hunting ground. The ancient sites belong to a culture archaeologists call Plains Archaic, while the newer sites are from the Iroquois and Oglala Lakota. Both tribes still exist in North and South Dakota today. Many natives were moved off the land after the Dawes Act of 1887 was passed. This act allowed the U.S. government to break up Native American land and resulted in the taking of 90 million acres of tribal lands. The act allowed the head of each Native American family to receive 160 acres of farmland or 320 acres of grazing land. However, since many natives were not accustomed to standardized farming or ranching, they suffered economically. Also, the farmland they were given was not suitable for productive farming. Earlier, in 1862, President Lincoln passed the Homesteading Act, which allowed a United States citizen of at least 21 years old, male or female and of any race, to claim 160 acres after filling out an application, living on and improving the land for 5 years and filing a deed within 7 years. This promise of land helped settle the West, although life was not easy for the homesteaders, especially in the area around the Badlands where the soil was not ideal for farming. However, it did prove better for ranchers. About 40% of homesteaders proved up their claims, meaning they satisfied the requirements to claim their land. A few additional acts were passed relating to the Homestead Act that allowed for more land, such as the Stock Raising Homestead Act that promised a total of 640 acres for ranching purposes. This act was important for the Badlands as it drew more ranchers to the area. One of the iconic images from the Homestead Act was the sod house. Homesteaders packed this soil into bricks to gradually build a home. The sod house had to be at least 12 feet by 14 feet to satisfy the conditions of the Homestead Acts and realize the claim. These were crude shelters, and homesteaders would replace them with permanent wood frame homes as soon as they had the ability to do so. As you can see, the Badlands are much more than a monument to erosion. They're a land rich with ancient and recent history. Thank you for watching.